Hey guys, it's Miss Marker. I'm going to be reading this text, America and I, for you guys, and I'll be pausing after each chunk of this text to annotate for evidence about what it means to be an American. This text is a story, so it's gonna have a lot of dialogue and just plot pieces, and there's probably not going to be evidence about that detail of what it means to be American every single line or paragraph. So here we go. As one of the dumb, voiceless ones I speak, one of the millions of immigrants beating out their hearts at your gates for a breath of understanding. Ah, America. From the other end of the earth from where I came, America was a land of living hope, woven of dreams, aflame with longing and desire. Choked for ages in the airless oppression of Russia, the promised land rose up, wings for my stifled spirit, sunlight burning through my darkness, freedom singing to me in my prison, deathless songs tuning prison bars into strings of a beautiful violin. I arrived in America, my young, strong body, my heart and soul pregnant with the unlived lives of generations clamoring for expression. What my mother and father and their mother and father never had a chance to give out in Russia, I would give out in America. The hidden sap of centuries would find release, colors that never saw light, songs that died unvoiced, romance that never had a chance to blossom in the black life of the old world. In the golden land of flowing opportunity, I was to find my work that was denied me in the sterile village of my forefathers. Here I was to be free from the dead drudgery for bread and that held me down in Russia. For the first time in America, I'd cease to be a slave of the belly. I'd be a creator, a giver, a human being. My work would be the living job of fullest self-expression. But from my high visions, my golden hopes, I had put my feet down on earth. I had to have food and shelter. I had to have the money to pay for it. I was in America, among the Americans, but not of them. No speech, no common language, no way to win a smile of understanding from them. Only my young, strong body and my untried faith. Only my eager, empty hands and my full heart shining from my eyes. Okay, so looking back at this, is there any point when our author identifies what she thinks it means to be American? And I think that here she's talking about, her expectations of coming to America, and then she's talking about how Russia was not a good place for her. She was in poverty. But I don't think until maybe around here does she actually get to what she thinks it means to be American. In paragraph 6, she says, I'd be a creator, a giver, a human being. My work would be the living job of fullest self-expression. So I'm going to underline or highlight this part because I think she's saying that she's going to be American when she gets to be a creator, a giver, and a real human being, where she's not treated so badly like she was in Russia, and where her work isn't just menial, hard labor, but is actually going to be life-giving and use her talents. Okay, so once you've highlighted that or underlined that piece of evidence, we'll continue with chunk 2. God from the world, here I was with so much richness in me, but my mind was not wanted without the language, and my body, unskilled, untrained, was not even wanted in the factory. Only one of the two chances was left open to me, the kitchen, or minding babies. My first job was as a servant in an Americanized family. Once long ago, they came from the same village from where I came, but they were so well dressed, so well fed, so successful in America that they were ashamed to remember their mother tongue. What were to be my wages? I ventured timidly as I looked up to the well-fed, well-dressed American man and woman. I'm actually going to stop here, and I think that this idea of being well-fed and well-dressed American seems to be important as what it means to be American. You're not poor when you're American. Oops. Having trouble with the highlighting. They looked at me with a sudden coldness. What have I said to draw away from me their warmth? Was it so low for me to talk of wages? I shrank back into myself like a low-down bargainer. Maybe they're so high up in well-being they can't any more understand how low my low thoughts for money. From his rich height, the man preached down to me that I must not be so grabbing for wages, only just landed from the ship and already thinking about money when I should be thankful to associate with Americans. The woman, out of her smooth, smiling fatness, assured me that this was my chance for a summer vacation in the country with her 2 lovely children. My great chance to learn to be a civilized being, to become an American by living with them. I think that's important. Americans being a civilized being, as in she's not American until she is civilized. Made to feel that I was in the hands of American friends, invited to share with them their home, their plenty, their happiness. I think that's American for her. Having plenty, having a home, being happy. I pushed out from my head the worry for wages. Here was my first chance to begin my life in the sunshine after my long darkness. My laugh was all over my face, and I said to them, I'll trust myself to you. What I'm worth you'll give me. And I entered their house like a child by the hand. The best of me I gave them. Their house cares were my house cares. I got up early, I worked till late, and all that my soul hungered to give I put into the passion with which I scrubbed floors, scoured pots, washed clothes. I was so grateful to mingle with the American people, to hear the music of the American language, and I never knew tiredness. There was such a freshness in my brains and such willingness in my heart. I could go on, not only with the work of the house, but work with my head. Learning new words from the children, the grocer, the butcher, the iceman. I was not even afraid to ask for words from the policeman in the street, and every new word made me see new American things with American eyes. I felt like a Columbus, finding new worlds through every new word. So it seems like language also is a key piece for her of being American. She starts to feel like she has American eyes when she starts to gain some of the language. But words alone were not only for the inside of me. The outside of me still branded me for a steerage immigrant. I had to have clothes to forget myself, that I'm a stranger yet. And so I had to have money to buy these clothes. So she needs money and clothes to be American. The month was up. I was so happy. Now I'd have money, my own earned money. Money to buy a new shirt on my back, shoes on my feet, maybe yet an American dress and hat. So there's like definitely American clothing for her, or you have to have money to buy and look like an American. Ah, how high rose my dreams, how plainly I saw all that I would do with my visionary wages shining like a light over my head. In my imagination I already walked in my new American clothes. How beautiful I looked as I saw myself like a picture before my eyes. I saw how I would throw away my immigrant rags tied up in my immigrant shawl. With money to buy, free money in my hands, I'd show them that I could look like an American in a day. So this idea of like money and clothes is definitely a piece of what it means to be American. I don't think she feels like she can be American while she's still poor. Like a prisoner in his last night in prison, counting the seconds that will free him from his chains, I trembled breathlessly for the minute I get the wages in my hand. Before dawn, I rose. I shined up the house like a jewel box. I prepared breakfast and waited with my heart in my mouth for my lady and gentleman to rise. At last I heard them stirring. My eyes were jumping out of my head to them, when I saw them coming in and seating themselves by the table. Like a hungry cat rubbing up to its boss for meat, so I edged up and simpered around them as I passed them the food. Without my will, like a beggar, my hand reached out to them. The breakfast was over and no word yet for my wages. Gatunu, I thought to myself. Must be a Russian word. I don't know what that means. Maybe they're so busy with their own things they forgot it's the day for my wages. Could they have everything... Could they who have everything know what it was to do, what I was to do with my first American dollars? How could they, soaking in plenty? How could they feel the longing and the fierce hunger in me, pressing up through each visionary dollar? How could they know the gnawing ache of my avid fingers for the feel of my own earned dollars, my dollars that I could spend like a free person, my dollars that would make me feel with everybody alike? So she needs money to feel like a free person. And she realizes they can't understand how badly she wants it because they're busy with their own things and they have plenty. I don't really want to highlight that. Okay. Lunch came, lunch passed. Oi, way, what a word. Not a word yet about my money. It was near dinner and not a word yet about my wages. I began to set the table, but my head, it swam away from me. I broke a glass. The silver dropped from my nervous fingers. I couldn't stand it any longer. I dropped everything and rushed over to my American lady and gentleman. Oy vey, the money, my wages, I cried breathlessly. 4 cold eyes turned on me. Wages? Money? The 4 eyes turned into hard stone as they looked me up and down. Haven't you a comfortable bed to sleep and 3 good meals a day? You're only a month here, just came to America, and you already think about money? Wait till you're worth any money. What use are you without knowing English? Wow, okay, so you're not worth money yet, you don't know English, you're not American is what they're saying, so that's what it takes. You should be glad we keep you here. It's like a vacation for you. Other girls pay money yet to be in the country. I went black for my eyes. I was so choked. No words came to my lips. Even the tears went dry in my throat. This is interesting that, like, she thinks that she needs money in order to be American, yet they say she's not worth money, and that that's not important, but they're in a position to feel that way because they have a lot of money. Okay, so let's move on to chunk 3. I left. Not a dollar for all my work. For a long, long time my heart ached and ached like a sore wound. If murderers would have robbed me and killed me, I wouldn't have hurt me so much. I couldn't think through my pain. The minute I'd see before me how they looked at me, the words they said to me, then everything began to bleed in me, and I was helpless. For a long, long time, the thought of ever working in a, quote, American family made me tremble with fear, like the fear of wild wolves. No, never again would I trust myself to an American family, no matter how fine their language and how sweet their smile. It was blotted out in me, all trust and friendship from Americans, but the life in me still burned to live, the hope in me still craved hope, in darkness and dirt, in hunger and want, but only to live on. There had been no end to my day working for the American family, now rejecting false friendships from higher-ups in America. I turned back to the ghetto. I worked on a hard bench with my own kind on either side of me. Her own kind meaning, I think, other immigrants. She's going and working with other immigrants instead of the fancy house with these fancy Americans. I knew before I began what my wages were to be, I knew what my hours were to be, and I knew the feeling of the end of the day. From the outside, my second job seemed worse than the first. It was in a sweatshop of a Delancey Street basement kept up by an old wrinkled woman that looked like a black witch of greed. My work was sewing on buttons. While the morning was still dark, I walked into a dark basement, and darkness met me when I turned out of the basement. Day after day, week after week, all the contact I got with America was handling dead buttons. The money I earned was hardly enough to pay for bread and rent. I didn't have a room to myself. I didn't even have a bed. I slept on a mattress on the floor in a rat hole of a room occupied by a dozen other immigrants. I was always hungry. Oh, so hungry. The scant meals I could afford only sharpened my appetite for real food, but I felt myself better off than working in the American family, where I had 3 good meals a day and a bed to myself. With all the hunger and darkness of the sweatshop, I had at least the evening to myself, and all night was mine. When all were asleep, I used to creep up to the roof of the tenement and talk out my heart in silence to the stars of the sky. Who am I? What am I? What do I want with my life? Where is America? Is there an America? What is this wilderness in which I'm lost? So I think she's dealing with here that her expectations of America have turned out to be false, and I don't think she feels American at this point. I don't know if anything here has shown me what it means to be American. So let's keep going. I'd hurl my questions and then think, and I could not tear it out of me, the feeling that America must be somewhere, somehow, only I couldn't find it, my America, where I would work for love and not for living. Again, that's what it means for her to be American, working for love and not just for a living, like enjoying what you do, not just having to work in order to get by. I was like a thing following blindly after something far off in the dark. Oy vey, I stretch out my hand up in the air. My heart is so lost in America. What's the use of all my working if I'm not in it? As in, she's not in America. Dead buttons is not me. Then the busy season started in the shop. The mounds of buttons grew and grew. The long day stretched out longer. I had to begin with the buttons earlier and stay with them till later in the night. The old witch turned into a huge greedy maw for wanting more and more buttons. For a glass of tea, for a slice of herring over black bread, she would buy us up to stay another hour till there seemed to be no end to her demands. One day the light of self-assertion broke into my cellar darkness. I don't want the tea. I don't want your herring, I said with terrible boldness. I only want to go home. I only want the evening to myself. You fresh mouth, you, cried the old witch. You learned already too much in America. I want no clock watchers in my shop. Out you go. Okay, so she's fed up. So I'm going to be cut off here. You can go to the next video to finish the rest of the story. See you there.